press conference to explain it. And we're talking about the DMV Community and Fashion Show Gala. It's all set to take place this upcoming weekend right here in the nation's capital. You'll meet the co-founder. All that and more, but first, you already know what we're talking about. Hot as H-E-double hockey sticks.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant the men in front of the camera right now.
Hey, well, yeah, that's us too.
We're burning up.
Yeah, baby.
So I've been to Alcatraz before. You ever been?
No, I just watched it on TV a couple of times, but never been inside.
Yeah, it's like a park. I think it's a national park landmark now or something.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Well,
I'll be watching the story.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard.
Uh-huh.
Definitely don't want to try to swim from there, that's for sure. All right, listen, I hope you go swimming in someplace, some way to keep yourself cool this afternoon, because locally the DMV is, so we've done a lot of rain. We did a little heat at the end of June, and this month has not been featuring a lot of hot temperatures, but today it will.
Yeah, I think I heard you say earlier the hottest day of the week.
Hottest day of the week, perhaps hottest day so far this month. We'll be in
Wow.
the mid-90s by late afternoon. We've got a heat advisory for the region as well. So that is certainly a first for this month anyways. And, you know, the ever-present isolated storm in the forecast. But, Guy, if we have good news here, I think the storm chances are down. Last night we had another round. We had some flash flooding in parts of the area. You know, picked up anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to another inch of rain last night. 84 degrees, but our feels like our, you mix in the humidity, our heat index already in the mid-90s. And that number will go up to about 105 this afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the real deal of heat. Take it seriously. You know, don't leave your pets outside, or make sure everybody's got plenty of water. We all need water. If you're working outside, get yourself a break in some air conditioner. It's that kind of afternoon. And it will continue to just deliver unrelenting heat around here. Middle of summer, and you know, we know how to turn it up when we want around these parts. It's a quiet morning. Have a few clouds, get the day going. As far as drying things out, not really, as we'll still be very humid around here later today. And storm chances are not zero, but they're more in the 20% category. So, you know, could we get a storm? Yes, but it won't be widespread outbreak like we've seen, you know, 2 out of 3 of the last afternoons. The good news is the heat won't last forever. Tomorrow we'll be back in the upper 80s. And getting into the weekend, it's again, not a non-zero storm chance, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoons will all feature just a pop-up storm. So making weekend plans and they involve the great outdoors, yeah, it'll be hot, but it won't be raining every minute, and you know, we don't have to worry about severe weather outbreaks. That's your heat advisory for today. Does include us all of our counties locally. That got expanded out to the west earlier this morning, but again, gonna feel like 105, so take the heat seriously through 8 p.m. And there's your weekend forecast. Nothing terrible, upper 80s to about 90. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
All right, that's good. I got big weekend plans. So
do you?
Yeah.
You going to share with everybody?
I'm serving as the ringmaster for the Universal Circus on Sunday.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, so come check me out.
That's like a big deal.
It'll be my first time, so we'll see if I can get it right.
Best of luck to you.
Thanks, Tucker Barnes. Maybe you can serve as one of the clowns. All things weather right here on the Live Zone. No? Okay. Guys, if you haven't already done so yet, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take your forecast on the go. Hey, by the way, guys, let us know what you think throughout the show if you're watching us live on the Fox 5 DC YouTube page. It's real simple. Just leave a comment and, well, I tell you what, you do so, perhaps I will read it live on air right here on the LZ. We will do that throughout the show this afternoon. Well, some of the stories we're following: major upgrades underway at Dulles International Airport, with crews installing the final steel beam for Concourse E this morning. The new concourse will feature, get this, 14 gates, a United Airlines lounge, state-of-the-art restrooms, and direct aerotrain access. It's expected to replace the aging CD concourse. Additional plans include new runways, a traffic control tower, and the eventual retirement of the people movers. You remember those things, the airport's iconic mobile lounges. Pending FAA approval, several upgrades are already underway to accommodate growing passenger traffic, which, by the way, is projected to increase by more than 30% over the next 5 years. Officials credit the increase to the Silver Line extension and expanded direct flight options. Well, Maryland Senators Angela Alsobrooks and Chris Van Hollen reacting to the decision to slash funding from public broadcasting companies. Alsobrooks says in part, quote, "This Republican majority has not yet put one single bill on the floor to improve the lives of working people across my state and across this country." Senator Van Hollen echoing Alsobrooks, saying in part, the decision is cutting resources that provide Americans with critical public safety alerts during emergencies. Staying in the realm of politics, the House is expected to take up President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency spending cuts after Senate Republicans approve, count 'em, $9 billion in cuts to foreign aid and public broadcasting overnight. Meanwhile, Democrats, well, they are far more energized than Republicans for the next year's midterms, with 72% of Democrats and Democratic-aligned registered voters saying they are extremely motivated. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Andrea Kaye from The Andrea Kaye Show and political strategist back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you. Happy Thursday, Andrea.
Great to be with you, Guy, as always.
All right, let's jump into it. In this case, we're going to start off with the big story of the hour. Not sure if you know, but perhaps you do. We're talking about the Attorney General. Pam Bondi makes a highly anticipated visit to, dare I say, Alcatraz, once home of Al Capone. Now, it's speculated that while there, she's going to make an announcement that, well, it perhaps will reopen. The president has said in the past that he wouldn't mind reopening it. Your thoughts on this actually coming to fruition?
Well, whether or not Alcatraz reopens, in fact, I think it should. Why do we have this amazing penitentiary, a place that could hold and house, as it did in the past, the worst of the worst? And there's still questions as to whether or not anyone was ever able to successfully escape Alcatraz. Why would we leave that when we desperately need a place to house the worst of the worst, including those that broke into this country from foreign countries that are special interest aliens? We have upwards of 300,000 special interest aliens, which means they were designated by the U.S. government as coming from terror-infested countries. We need a place to house these criminals as they get ready to be deported. So I'm not against the reopening of Alcatraz, but this has already been a story, Guy. We don't need Pam Bondi to be going there to do a press conference to reiterate a story that's already been in the works.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think of Alcatraz, and the only thing I could think of is that movie with, let's see, Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, where they actually break into Alcatraz. It's a great movie, by the way. You should check it out. What we do know is perhaps, as the president stated, and very well may be true, no one, to our knowledge, has ever escaped from Alcatraz. So it's reassuring, if you will, when it comes to incarcerating the bad guys and bad gals. Hey, speaking of Alcatraz, many are really questioning the timing of all of this, Andrea, and that's because, well, they're saying that the Trump administration is really trying to divert attention, if you will, away from Jeffrey Epstein. I gotta ask, why is this administration so reluctant to address this issue?
Well, they've been addressing the issue. They've just been doing a really bad job of it, Guy. And if they had a decent, I don't know who's advising from a crisis management standpoint, but they need to get her away from TV cameras. This is only continuing to exacerbate the frustration that many people have in MAGA for the fact that she went in front of cameras and did hit after hit after hit after hit, promising to release the flight logs. I have flight logs. I have names. I'm going to be releasing it. She embarrassed these high-level influencers with her binder stunt with phase one on the cover, most transparent administration. And then we all know that then they came back. Now they're claiming it's a hoax. Look, if he wants to continue to prop up Pam Bondi, keep her as Attorney General, the only thing that he can do at this point to salvage his credibility and hers is to have her go back to her desk, stop doing any kind of media, and do her job as Attorney General. Her job is not to head up the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah, Andrea, I'm curious, on your radio show, are folks really talking about this? Is it something that perhaps is really bothering your listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason is because it's bigger than Jeffrey Epstein. The reason is and which is why this was continuing to be something that was talked about by Kash Patel in his book, Government Gangstas. He came on my show and talked about it. In the lead up to him being named as FBI director, this came up in hearings. Dan Bongino talked about it on his show. You know, this, and he put these people in place that have been talking about this cover up and the need for the truth to come out, just along the lines of JFK and along the lines of MLK. The American people and the MAGA people see this as bigger than Jeffrey Epstein. They see this, what the issue is here is they see it as an issue of lack of transparency on the part of the U.S. government, which was supposed to be solved by President Trump. And they also see it as an issue of accountability in terms of President Trump's promises to rout out the deep state, which is what people think is the underlying issue with the Epstein files.
I'll just leave it with this, and that is where there's smoke, typically there's fire. So take it for what it is. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Let's move it closer to Capitol Hill, or in this case back here in the nation's capital, where the Senate Judiciary Committee, well, the Republicans in essence voted earlier this morning to advance the nomination of President Trump's former personal attorney, Mr. Beauvais. All this taking place as Senate Democrats, a lot of drama there, Andrea, got up and walked out. Democrats now say the vote was not valid, to which the Republicans say, hold up, wait a minute, yes it is. What I say is, can't we all get along?
Can't we all get back to the business of the people's business? And that's what this reflects. The people resoundingly voted in President Trump, and he has the right to put forth his nominees and have his judges confirmed, just like what ended up happening under the Biden administration, even up until Joe Biden was leaving. In fact, there's still controversies surrounding his appointments and his nominees done through the auto pen. The American people are so sick of these histrionics and these theatrical demonstrations going on in D.C. We all know that this man is the only issue that should be in front of the American people is whether or not this man is qualified legally to do the job. And he is at least qualified as Judge Boasberg is and all the other lower court judges who decided to Bigfoot the president.
Let's move on to the White House, which yet again, controversy surrounding the White House. This as they attempt to claw back some $9 billion, and I said that with a B, billion dollars for foreign aid and public broadcasting. The bulk of the funds target about, let's say, $8 billion. That was for the foreign assistance programs. The remaining $1.1 billion was for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds NPR and PBS. Andrea, you know what I'm going to ask. I'm a huge Sesame Street fan. Are we going to be saying bye-bye to Big Bird?
Well, not necessarily. I think Big Bird should have the opportunity to compete with the rest of the content out there for private funds and for investments. There's certainly got to be people out there with large bank accounts that care enough about Big Bird to pay for it, not the taxpayers. And the issue is not about Big Bird. I think that we know, thanks to the hearings that took place, that NPR and PBS are nothing but propagandist machines for the Democrat Party, and the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for that. And we also, it was also exposed in terms of U.S. foreign aid, how the waste and fraud and disgusting ways in which our taxpayer dollars were being spent under the guise of foreign aid, like money to do studies on the marketability of peas down in South or Central America, to transgender coloring books. Look, the average American is still struggling to pay their bills. We're $37 trillion in debt as a nation. Taxpayer funds should not be paying for Democrat propagandist outlets or to fund all of these insane programs around the world.
All right, so you can get rid of Big Bird, but you got to keep Guy Smiley. For me, that happened to be an inspiration as a kid, and perhaps that's why I'm doing what I do just right now. We'll end with this, and that is a lot of Republicans not necessarily happy with this latest report, and that is the disapproval rating surrounding Donald Trump. A survey conducted over the weekend by YouGov reports that it asked some 1,600 U.S. adults how they felt about the way Trump is handling the presidency. And his disapproval rating hit a record high in his second term, reaching, well, as they say, a big, beautiful 55%. This is compared to 41% who approved of Trump. I'm curious, your take on all of this with regard to the wins that he's had. It's interesting to see that so many folks disapprove with what's happening with him right now.
Well, there's a lot of, I would be curious to get inside the questions and delve into the depths of the poll, but I can tell you that the unforced error with this Epstein file situation is affecting his approval ratings, at least with the conservatives. Look, we're very happy what he has done with the trades and the tariffs. They did not result in the inflation that everybody panicked and predicted, the panic predicted. Instead, we've got $7 trillion of new investments coming back into the United States. He's secured the border in a way that even Republicans said could never be done. But one of his promises was to rout out the deep state and to hold accountable elected officials who had committed crimes against the American people. There have been criminal referrals sent to the Department of Justice that have not resulted in prosecutions. And that is a key aspect that MAGA voted for. And we're disappointed it hasn't happened. A
topic I'm quite sure you will discuss yet again on your show, The Andrea Kaye Show. How can folks go about to listen?
Go to AndreaKayeShow.com. Thanks for having me, Guy.
But of course, always good to see you. Andrea Kaye joining us right here on the Live Zone. Well, for weeks, Israel and Syria have engaged in secret back-channel talks, searching for a diplomatic resolution to decades of tensions, mainly over territory captured by Israel from Syria during the Arab-Israeli War of 1967. Despite those back-channel talks, Israel struck Syria this week, causing confusion and perhaps division. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Scott Feldman with One Israel Fund back here on the Live Zone. Scott, I know you're a busy man traveling as always and truly appreciate you taking out time to join us right here on the Live Zone. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be back. How are you?
I am good. Somewhat concerned and perplexed, if you will, with regard to what's taking place between Israel and Syria. We know that the Syrian president accuses Israel now of, let's say, sowing divisions and trying to ignite tensions and chaos in his country after Israel's military hit the heart of Damascus in what he says was support for an organization that, well, quite honestly, he is not too fond of. Your take on this, sir?
So, as you know, Israel has a large Druze population in the northern part of the country, and Syria, a large part of their area that borders with Israel, is also members of the Druze community. And there was a major massacre that took place over the past 24 hours, which Israel accuses the new Syrian government of being behind. And as a show of solidarity, Israel basically went in and was the only entity that went in to prevent further murder from taking place. I think 203 Druze residents were slaughtered in the streets. And Israel has basically maintained for the better part of now a year and a half that they're not going to allow any kind of a terrorist situation to exist on its border. And even though Israel has been in discussions with the new government in Syria about regulating relations, they're certainly not going to take any kind of provocative actions on their border without responding. So they responded in A, defense of the Druze community, and B, they do not want any kind of a potential army of terrorists setting up on their border again, because we've had that for the past 50 years, and we've cleared out a lot of those problems over the past year and a half, and we certainly don't want to go back to those times.
Well, Scott, playing devil's advocate here, we know that the Trump administration has been very, let's say, friendly with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, with regard to what's taking place in their alignment. The president not happy at all with what happened, and so I'm curious, what happens now, being that relationship to a certain extent is somewhat strained?
Right. So again, I don't know what's going on, obviously, behind the scenes. None of us do. Israel basically sent quite a lot of documentation and video that was captured to the administration to be able to see. Obviously, the president wants to see peace everywhere in the Middle East. That's his goal. And I believe that's also Prime Minister Netanyahu's goal. But, Israel lives in a very, very difficult area. And the only thing that works in that area is strength. The president showed it when we went into Iran and bombed the nuclear facilities, because Iran was playing games with their negotiations, which they've been doing for the better part of 2 decades. Same thing, so too in Syria. We're still trying to figure out exactly what this new government is. Remember, the leader in Syria for many, many years had strong ties to Al-Qaeda. He's definitely not, a democratically elected, peaceful individual. So everybody's right now in a wait-and-see area. The president obviously paid a visit to meet the new president in Syria, and wants very much. He removed the sanctions on Syria. He wants very much for them to move towards the West and in somewhat of a peaceful situation. But like I said, Israel is not going to take this lightly when their borders are threatened. And they were very, very concerned about what was going on the border, both for the Druze community there, as well as for their own citizenry along the Syrian border.
Scott, I got about a minute left, and I want to pose this question within that time frame, if at all possible. I was, as you know, you're sitting in a car. I take the metro into work daily. I overheard a young lady ask her mom, "Mommy, when will it end in the Gaza Strip?" And I sat there and I thought, wow, even little kids are somewhat bothered by this, as they should be. It's a vast question, if you will. So I will pose the same question to you. What will it take in order to end the chaos that's unfolding in Gaza?
Well, we know what it will take. The question is what's going to happen next. So what it will take is, release our hostages and lay the arms down. Obviously, it's a pie in the sky dream when you're dealing with a terrorist entity like Hamas. That being said, according to my sources and what I've read over the past 24 hours, there were some major steps made in getting to that ceasefire that we've been talking about now for a few weeks. Israel has backed down on one of their requirements as far as where their troops would be stationed through a 60-day ceasefire. And it seems that Hamas has also moved a little bit in the direction that they are willing to accept a ceasefire, albeit temporary, which hopefully will lead to a permanent ceasefire. But they had been holding out for an all or nothing, meaning a permanent end to the war, but not to give up their power in the Gaza Strip, which Israel basically has set up is a no-go. They've been fighting now for a year and a half. We've lost over 1,200 people on October 7th, and another close to 1,000 soldiers fighting there for the release. We're not going to just put down everything and say, okay, now you can continue to rule the Gaza Strip. So Israel maintains, release our hostages and step down from running the Gaza Strip, and there'll be a ceasefire permanent. Until that time, I guess the best we can hope for right now is a 60-day cease and get some of our hostages back.
And with that, we'll have to leave it there. Yet again, we have been speaking with Scott Feltman with One Israel Fund. Truly appreciate you joining us. Yet again, I know you are a very busy man. Thank you so much for coming on the live.
Guy, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to always be with you.
But of course. All right, guys, we'll take our first break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, let's lighten things up, shall we? We'll discuss the DMV Community Awards in the Fashion Gala, set to get underway right here in the nation's capital this weekend. You'll meet one of the co-founders next, right here on the Live Zone.
A CBDC that is being used to monitor and restrict citizen spending. The data is being used to develop a social credit system that rewards or punishes individuals based on their spending behavior. In Canada, the former Trudeau administration demonstrated the power of federal financial surveillance and control when it froze the bank accounts of hundreds of truckers protesting the COVID vaccine mandate in 2022. Surely, this totalitarian surveillance tool would never take root in the United States. However, that assumption would be wrong. This is not a theoretical risk. It is a very real and very dangerous precedent. Under the Biden administration, financial surveillance was a core tenet of President Biden's policy agenda. In 2022, President Biden issued an executive order placing urgency on CBDC research and development. Moreover, the agency reports created under that executive order made it clear that the previous administration was eager to create a CBDC and was willing to trade Americans' right to financial privacy for a CCP-style surveillance tool. Our bill, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, prevents future administrations from weaponizing this technology against the American people while ensuring that any development of digital money reflects our American values of privacy, individual sovereignty, and free market competitiveness. If not designed to be open, permissionless, and private with a capital P, resembling cash, a government-issued CBDC is nothing more than an Orwellian surveillance tool that will be used to erode the American way of life. The federal government has no business monitoring Americans' daily financial lives. We don't need or want a state-run digital dollar with China.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, the countdown is on, and just count them, not 1, but 2 days. The much-anticipated DMV Community Awards in Fashion Show Gala will get underway. It's an extravagant event that recognizes community and industry leaders while celebrating all things fashion. It's all taking place at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library with a VIP reception and an amazing showtime start at 7 o'clock. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Dr. Tahid Burke back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, my friend, and welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Guy. How you doing today?
I am doing amazing, but I would assume that you're doing even better now that we're counting down the days to this event that has truly been anticipated. You teamed up with our good buddy, Mr. Damon Scott, and you all have really made a name for yourselves by spearheading this event. So folks that are, let's say, crawling from under a rock and, dear God, hearing about this for the first time, do tell, what's to be expected?
Well, first of all, Guy, they're going to expect something that I believe that DC have not seen in a long time. They're going to expect fashion, impact, excellence, entertainment. We're going to do it at the Martin Luther King Memorial Library Great Hall. We're going to turn the hall into a facility that recognizes fashion and entertainment.
Dr. Burke, one of the things that you all are really doing and focusing on is really recognizing community and industry leaders that have made a positive impact. Talk about that.
Guy, I think I'm having some challenges with my video. Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me, Guy?
I got you loud and clear, my friend.
Okay, great. So basically, what was your question? I'm sorry, Guy.
No, it's no worries. That's why we call it a live show, and sometimes live things like that happen. In this case, we're talking about getting live in a major way and recognizing community and industry leaders that have really made a positive impact. Do tell.
Well, basically, there are 21 people that we're recognizing this year, some of the most influential people in the DC metropolitan area. We're going to be giving the Legends Award to the owner of Ben's Chili Bowl. We're giving the Legends Award to the great Redskin, Brian Mitchell. We're going to be recognizing Santana Mars as an icon awards winner, Easy Street as an icon awards winner, some of the big names in the fashion industry, Derek Rutledge, Ron Cook, Earl Bannister, Carmen Felder, Riza, who started the Latino Fashion Week in the DC metropolitan area, June DeMore, some of the most influential people in the DC metropolitan area, Guy, will be recognized on stage July 19th, 2025 at the Martin Luther King Memorial Library.
Yeah, but you all will also focus on one of my faves, and that happens to be fashion. And let me say it again, fashion, and let me say it one more time, fashion. In this case, fashion, 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 style, and charisma. Something that, well, quite honestly, when I think of a fashion show, all three, or in this case, five, go hand in hand, and it's something that you all will put on full display.
Well, the combination that we're going to have, Guy, the fashion, the awards, the excellence is going to be absolutely unbelievable. We have over 60 models that's going to be showcasing on the runway. We have over 12 designers. We have designers flying in from Africa. We have designers flying that stuff in from Australia. The runway is going to be electric. The atmosphere is going to be electric. We have 3 red carpet locations, one right in front of the building of the Martin Luther King Memorial Library, one in the VIP section, and one behind stage. As soon as the honorees come off stage, they're going to be interviewed on the red carpet. Guy, we got over 50 media, photographers, videographers, and also magazines that's going to be showcasing this display on July 19th.
Yeah, the other cool part about all of this, yes, it's a party, but you know what I'm about to say. It's a party with a purpose. You all are really hoping to generate funds to really help those that have been underserved throughout the community.
Yeah, what we want to do every year, Guy, is find an organization that we can donate part of the proceeds to, an organization that's making a positive impact throughout the community. And this year it happened to be Kaya House, which supports special needs individuals. And that's true to my heart. My brother with special needs, he passed away. May God rest his soul. But we are fighting not only to recognize community leaders, Guy, to create fashion, atmosphere, and elegance in the DC metropolitan area, but we want to make an impact. We want to make an impact throughout the city, the DC metropolitan area, and we want to create an atmosphere that empowers and impact underprivileged individuals.
All right, well, as they say, I'm sold. I know I am. I hope a lot of folks watching are sold as well. Folks that want to purchase tickets, how would one go about to do so?
They can go to Eventbrite, DMV Awards Eventbrite. They can purchase tickets, or they can email us at the DMV Awards Gala at gmail.com. And we'd be glad to get their tickets. VIPs are going fast. Guy, I believe that this will be the biggest fashion event that hit the DC metropolitan area ever.
And with that, you just dropped the mic. Enough said. Yet again, it's the upcoming DMV Community Awards and Fashion Show Gala, set to get underway this upcoming Saturday at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library. We've been speaking with Dr. Tauheed Burke, who yet again has been kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend. Congratulations.
Good to see you. I appreciate you, Guy. We have a VIP ticket reserved for you. We look forward to seeing you there, Guy.
No doubt. Can't wait. All right, guys. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone.
Anywhere in the world, which is good for consumers, it's good for companies, and it's good for Americans. Thank you. Now yield.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Yet again, my colleague confuses retail and wholesale CBDC. Banning wholesale CBDC is nonsensical. It has nothing to do with surveillance and everything to do with modernizing how American financial institutions and our central bank engage in intrabank cross-border transactions. This suggestion of Big Brother and monitoring is just a fabrication, a boogeyman. We must support financial innovation and not hide from the future. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield 2 minutes to a returning member of the House Financial Services Committee, the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Stutzman. 2 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our Financial Services Chairman for his leadership on a really important issue that's going to affect many generations ahead of us. I rise today in strong support of the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. Our founding fathers were clear that Congress, not the executive branch, has the power to coin money and regulate its value. Yet, in 2022, the Biden administration issued an executive order that placed the highest urgency on the research and development of a central bank digital currency, a so-called digital dollar. Under the wrong circumstances, this technology could allow the federal government unfettered access into the wallets of every American, putting privacy and freedom at risk. Unfortunately, us as Americans know all too well how far some administrations are willing to go to intrude into our lives. We all saw how the Biden administration ruthlessly pressured social media platforms to silence the voices of Americans who criticized their disastrous COVID-19 policies. And we saw this same ideology taken to the extreme when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau froze the bank accounts of Canadians who dared to protest his government during the pandemic. Now imagine if the federal government could see where we spend our hard-earned paychecks, track our charitable donations, or even cut off access to our own money if it disapproves of our beliefs. Any digital dollar must reflect our values of privacy and our First Amendment rights. This bill ensures our digital assets policy is in the hands of the American people, not the administrative state. It protects our values of privacy, individual freedom, and free market innovation by prohibiting a CBDC surveillance tool that could be wielded against the American.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We are just about, let's say, 27 minutes away from a White House press briefing. And once that gets underway, as we do each and every week, we'll take you there live right here on the Live Zone. Speaking of briefings, we're going to take you to a Montgomery County briefing in just a second. But one of the things that we really wanted to push and get you involved, yes, you at home, the audience, and that is to comment on what you like and don't like about the show. Well, specifically, you know me, I'm all about what you like. In this case, if you're watching us on our YouTube page, our Fox 5 DC YouTube page, we encourage you to, well, comment. Leave a comment or two. That's exactly what Mr. Jones did, as you can see right there to my, this way. Oh, that's cool. It's my first time doing it. See it right here? It says Mr. Jones, yeah, well, in essence, he was saying that President Trump should not be paying for near weekly golf outings either. At least we get something out of Sesame Street. That's kind of cool. I could see it like right here, and I could kind of touch it a little bit. So anyway, we encourage you to take part as well. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hop online with regard to our YouTube page, and you too can leave a comment. All right, serious news, going to take you to Montgomery County. Big news out of Montgomery County after the council unanimously passed a bill earlier this week that will crack down on unlicensed for-profit house parties. This is their press conference discussing just that. Let's take a listen in.
For things like premium bottle service or a private cabana or hookah rental, etc., none of which they had gotten a license for of any kind. And to be clear, as I said before, there already was a law here in Montgomery County, a long-standing one, that requires a license if you're going to have the word used in the original statute was soiree, but to the extent that anybody didn't know what soiree was, we also include the word party now because that is the more common term, more commonly understood word that we all use today. So we looked at that and increased the fine from what was previously, and bear in mind, this law that prohibited these unlicensed parties, was authored so long ago and included a fine that was put in place so long ago that the maximum fine was $25. Now, imagine you're charging hundreds of dollars for admission. You're charging $1,000, $2,000 for your premium bottle service or your tables, private cabanas. $25 nobody cares about. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And at the end of the day, one of the key things we wanted to be able to do was to prevent people from going down this path in the first place. Prevent folks from saying, you know what, I think it is worth me trying to host this party, trying to have this event, trying to make a profit off of this, not let the county know, not get a license, and go forward with it. So with what we have put in place, based on the bill that Councilmember Friedson and I co-sponsored, the fine is now available up to a maximum penalty of $5,000 for failing to have a license for such an event. It also adds as a compounding factor increase in fines for certain common things that co-occur at these events. So for example, that would be things like noise level, noise disturbance, pool rental, alcohol service, entertainment venue, creating an entertainment venue when it's not authorized or allowable in that particular zone inside our county's zoning law, or failure to obtain the necessary conditional use approval for either an indoor or outdoor recreation or entertainment center. And I want to be clear, solving this problem took a lot of collaboration across multiple entities. And it's not always clear to the public who handles what around government, right? What we do know is that when something's going wrong, people pick up the phone and they call for the police. And certainly we greatly appreciate our police partners and their collaboration and work on this, and I'll let them speak directly to what they're doing moving forward to help handle if these situations should arise in the future, how that may be handled, but also understanding that our noise and that type of nuisance violation is handled by our Department of Environmental Protection, and that the licensing pieces of these things and for the activities going on these properties are handled by our Department of Permitting Services. So everyone from all of these agencies who worked collectively to put our heads together to try to come up with a viable solution that creates a penalty that will actually deter the conduct. I greatly appreciate your work, your support, and our ongoing collaboration as we move forward. With that, I want to be able to turn it over to Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you to my partner in this, Councilmember Lukey, for her leadership and all of her work. Thank you to Delegate Foley, who was the first person to raise this issue with me when there was a promoted nightclub operating in a private residence in my council district in the area that I represent, where hundreds and hundreds of residents were being shuttled from a satellite parking area at the local community center, the community center where, in fact, I grew up, into a home where bottle service of alcohol, where rooms were being rented, where a residence was being turned into a promoted nightclub. This is about public safety. It's about quality of life. It's about making sure that the punishment fits the crime. It's about ensuring that when you break the law, the fine isn't just the cost of doing business. Our penalties for clearly breaking the law, what any reasonable person would understand, including, by the way, the people who are actually carrying out these activities, would understand breaks the law, making sure that the penalties are not so insignificant, so minuscule, that they become a modest rounding error for the operating of these illicit activities. We're making sure that residents are being used for residential activities, and promoted nightclubs are for areas that are zoned and areas that are licensed to be promoted nightclubs. We're not saying that no activities should ever happen. We're saying that there is a time and a place and a way in which you are supposed to do certain activities, and if you are trying to carry them out in a place that is not only incredibly disruptive, but also extremely dangerous, that we are going to make sure that our penalties are appropriate for the level of disruption and danger that you're creating for our community. So I'm just really appreciative and really grateful to Councilmember Lukey for all of her work on this. It has impacted her district as well as mine, and now we're seeing it in other districts. And in fact, we're already seeing what the benefit of this legislation will do even before we unanimously approved it this week. We have heard now specific details of a planned promoted mansion party in the 2nd council district that was canceled after those who were involved in it understood and realized that there was a law that they thought was already on the books that had not yet been approved but was in the process of being voted on at the council. They canceled that activity. So that community, that neighborhood, those residents were spared from the disruption and the danger that that would have caused, and we are looking forward to more communities, more neighborhoods, and more residences being spared of this dangerous and disruptive activity, just to make sure that the punishment meets the crime that we have already said is not permissible and not allowed. I want to thank the Police Department, want to thank the Department of Environmental Protection, want to thank the Department of Permitting Services, and want to thank all of our state partners. As these issues were coming up more and more, we realized all together, collectively, that they did not have the tools that they needed to properly enforce the laws that we have asked them to enforce. This effort, this legislation, allows them to have those enforcement tools so they can carry out the law in the way that we expect them to, in the way that our residents expect us to, in the way that our community expects and our community needs. So with that, I am pleased to introduce our state partner who has really been a champion on this, who has been working on these issues at the state level and addressing them in our local community that we share and represent. Delegate, I was going to say council member, I'm so used to it, Delegate Linda Foley.
Thank you, Andrew. And as Councilmember Friedson said, I'm Delegate Linda Foley, and I represent District 15, which is from Potomac to Poolesville to Germantown to Clarksburg in western Montgomery County. I first of all want to thank both of these council members, Councilmember Friedson and Councilmember Lutke, and the entire county council for passing this legislation, which will really help keep our communities safe and peaceful. So you've heard some of the details. Just to add to it, I got into this because in the summer of 2024, a residential house, as you've heard, in my district in Potomac, actually pretty close to my own house, rented its property to a group for the purpose of holding a large-scale raucous wild party. As you've heard, they sold tickets with add-ons, including poolside cabanas, alcohol, unlimited amounts of alcohol, loud music, and they even had fireworks, which I was told are never legal in a residential area. Cars assumed the neighborhood. Streets blocking access for first responders and causing a huge problem with traffic. And as Councilmember Friedson said, they even had buses shuttling partygoers from the Potomac Community Center where more cars were parked. They filled up that parking lot and made that inaccessible to others without authorization or permission, I might add. So this soiree, to use that term, was called Wet Dreams. And the partygoers arriving were chanting, to no surprise, "Where are the whores?" They clearly had expectations about what they thought they were going to experience at this party. And let me just add that, you know, this kind of situation has been exacerbated by the extensive use of social media and digital communications, because it's so easy to advertise these things across a wide area. When all was said and done, an estimated 1,000 people attended this party. And when confronted with the citations and fines for hosting such an event with multiple violations, the property owner merely paid the relatively paltry fines and cavalierly chalked it up to the cost of doing this kind of event, promising to do more. Eventually, the county had to seek a cease and desist order to protect the neighborhood, and that tamped down future events. This is, as has been said, this is but one example of these kinds of events that this legislation will discourage in the future. And while some of these activities are already illegal in our county, it's really important that this legislation updates the code to provide meaningful consequences and increase monetary penalties for these kinds of parties. At the state level, we have, for our part, we're working on legislation to improve safety at short-term rentals. That's an area where we have jurisdiction over in the state, is how short-term rentals are governed. And we are working on legislation to improve safety at those events, because oftentimes it is a short-term rental that leads to this kind of party. In this case, that wasn't the case, but it can be, and it is a very common practice. So the council has done its part, and I pledge that we will continue to work in Annapolis at a state level to make all short-term rental properties safer for those who participate in events and take advantage of them, and for the members of our community. So thank you again for having me here today, and more importantly, thank you for taking the lead on this and getting this done.
Thank you, Delegate Foley. And with that, I'd like to bring up our Department of Permitting Services Deputy Director, Ehsan I'm going to do it wrong. Motazetti. Yes.
Thank you so much.
I always call you by your first name.
So. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ehsan Motazetti, Deputy Director with Department of Permitting Services, or you can call it DPS. So I just want to let you guys know our department welcomes the approval of Bill 13-25 as a critical tool to strengthen enforcement and protect the integrity of our residential neighborhoods. In recent years, we've seen a rise in illegal and non-permitted parties that exploit residential properties. This bill sends a clear message. Operating a commercial event in a residential neighborhood without proper permits and licensing is not just a zoning violation. It's a serious public safety issue. By increasing fines and allowing for multiple violations to be cited per event, Bill 1325 gives our team meaningful leverage dealing with unpermitted commercial parties in residential zones and violation of recreation and entertainment use. We can now act more decisively and with real consequences for repeat offenders. It also closes a loophole that allowed party organizers to treat modest fines as simply the cost of doing business. We thank Council Members Lutke and Friedson for championing this effort, and we look forward to working closely with our enforcement partners to implement this bill and ensure our communities remain safe, livable, and respected. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to bring up Assistant Chief Darren Frank from Montgomery County Police.
Good afternoon. I am Darren Frank. I'm the Chief of Patrol for the Montgomery County Department of Police. This is a serious issue for us because when these parties occur, folks call 911, and they expect a response, and they expect that we can restore peace and order to these neighborhoods. Even more of a concern for us is we've seen across the country these promoted parties with no security plan, with no oversight, end up resulting in aggravated assaults, extreme intoxication, and even into thefts in neighborhoods. The list goes on of what we see. These events, which are for profit, not for joy, for profit, cause incredible disruption. And the point that should be made today is that these soirees, these events, are not welcome in Montgomery County. And I applaud Councilmember Lutke, Councilmember Friedson for going to work on this issue because their constituents called them, and we all talked together as a team. Department of Permitting Services, County Council members, Department of Environmental Protection, and we said, how do we solve the problem? This legislation here is another tool in our belt, and we are, again, for this, the police are going to go and ensure the safety of the neighborhood, ensure the safety of our permitting folks so that they can do their job and hold people accountable so that these actions stop in Montgomery County. So I applaud you for your leadership, council members. It's another great example of how public safety in Montgomery County has evolved. It's not just the police. It's us and our partners going to work on problems and solving it as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are happy to take any questions that any of you may have.
Enforcement side of things, obviously the police get called to a party that's happening. What are the next steps? How are you determining whether it's a commercial party or just a regular party, and who's levying that fine once you guys did determine it was a commercial party?
Sure. For the fine piece, it again comes from the agency which has the jurisdiction on that particular piece of violation. Now, with the way this has changed, we did add certain things like if noise violations occur, and noise violations are a Department of Environmental Protection function, but the aggregate, they can aggregate the fines where each occurrence, which often they occur at the same event. So you have a lack of license, you have a noise violation, you have other failures to comply, they can each incur an up to $5,000 penalty. So you could, in theory, have several $5,000 penalties aggregated together in one claim related to one party or event. But I'd like to turn it. Whoop, where did Darren go? Yeah. Did not say that. If Assistant Chief Frank would like to talk about the protocols that the police department's working on.
So we've developed a even stronger relationship with the Department of Permitting Services, Department of Environmental Protection. We've got a great lieutenant that's taken on this problem, Lieutenant Mahoyne. I've made him our subject matter expert. We have a game plan, law enforcement does, for when these occur, and we will go through that game plan, which includes identifying what kind of party it is, identifying the different infractions that are occurring, and we'll make contact with permitting services and environmental protection to bring them to the scene and act. If for some reason that's not available, we'll document it, we'll pass that information along to our partners, and they can take action off of that. As you know, we have body-worn cameras, we have mobile video cameras, and we have a lot of neighbors out there that are more than willing to come in and tell these folks about the mayhem they saw in their neighborhood. And that really becomes the key when we go to court on these, is those neighbors that are so severely impacted coming to court and explaining the nightmare they've had because they've had a house that has party after party and didn't care. However, again, I'll go back to the success that Councilmember Friedson said. Right now, we're able generally to see when these parties are going to occur because, again, it happens on social media. And these neighbors are very savvy and tired of it. We get notified, we go out and have a conversation with what are innocent homeowners sometimes and say, do you understand that if this, and this happens, you can get $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in fines quite readily. And they make the smart decision and say, yep, nope, not doing this anymore. That's really the tactic we want to rely on because that allows us to make sure that through your weekend, your neighborhood's quiet.
And I'll just add, the important piece here to remember is we're not talking about a nonprofit organization hosting a party at someone's house, or a political event, or a family gathering of some sort, or a group of friends who are coming together. We're talking about promoted commercial events, ticketed events, events where goods and services are being sold, where cabanas are being rented, where rooms are being rented, where alcohol is being paid for with bottle service. That's what we're talking about here. And as noted by Assistant Chief Frank, a lot of times, oftentimes, these are not property owners that are putting on these events themselves. What we have seen more often than not is these are commercial promoters who operate all around the region and sometimes all around the country, who target individual property owners and pay the property owner for use of their home. And it's the commercial promoter that's actually putting on these activities. But it's the property owner that has to bear the brunt of some of the violations, because it's their property and they have allowed the use of their property for illicit purposes. And so that's where the deterrent comes in. We're probably not going to be able to stop all of these promoters who know very well what they're doing is illegal and have baked that into the cost of doing business. But what we can do, what we hope to do, is really get private homeowners who probably don't realize the extent to which these things can get out of hand, how dangerous and disruptive they are, and make sure that they're aware of how serious a consequence this will be, and make sure that the consequences actually are serious enough to serve as the deterrent, as we've already seen be effective.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So the residential zone is for the residential use. Once you introduce money into it, exchanging hands, charging a fee, it's not residential use anymore. It becomes commercial. That's when zoning, based on that, we can come and issue a notice of violation, fine, because now you're taking it somewhere else. By the way, we have a task force. We have a task force that's representative from Department of Permitting Services, police, and everybody. So in cases such as these things that are happening, especially as it was mentioned before, social media, people are on top of everything. They call us, they let us know. That's how we were able to stop a few big, large events occurring last week and a few months ago. So as soon as we are aware of one of these things, we get the task force. Last week we were working on it. 2 weeks ago, I got Greg Nichols over here, our zoning manager, that was making phone calls to the police, to our FCC, which is like our fire code compliant, and everybody. We were ready to go, but he was able to stop this whole thing from occurring. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or any follow-up questions? Yes, sir.
It's a great example of elected officials bringing together so many different agencies. Just wondering, you're talking about commercial organizations. I wonder if a consumer purchasing something from one of these agencies might want to file a complaint with the Office of Consumer Protection, and whether or not that would come under excessive trade practice.
Well, that is a great question, or a great comment from our Director of the Office of Consumer Protection. And yes, those who purchase tickets and believe they are buying a thing or entitled to a thing as a result of their commercial transaction may in fact want to do something like that. So don't forget that we do have an Office of Consumer Protection here available to assist folks. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything else? So back to the backyard parties, the graduations, the quinceañeras, the weddings in my case. We do want to make it very clear that regular private family events and things that occur as a matter of course at your home are certainly welcome in Montgomery County. We are just trying to prevent these things which get very out of hand from continuing to occur. With that, thank you all very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
All right, so there you have it. You heard it directly. The Montgomery County Council unanimously passing a bill earlier this week that will crack down on unlicensed for-profit house parties. That bill, by the way, dubbed 1325, and the new measure will strengthen the licensing requirements, increase the penalties, and in essence close some loopholes for what they're calling commercial house parties in residential neighborhoods. It is 1 minute before the top of the hour. Yet again, I want to remind you, we are awaiting a White House press briefing to take place in just about a minute or so. But you know the deal. They typically start a little bit after 1 o'clock. Top of mind, obviously, Israel's attack on Syria. Jeffrey Epstein. What will the press secretary have to say about that? And a lot of folks talking about Alcatraz. Will they reopen? They being the Trump administration. All of which will likely be discussed coming up during the White House press briefing, which will get underway shortly. We'll take a quick break. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone.
You good?
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, tens of thousands of people are expected to protest the Trump administration again on Thursday. The 5th anniversary, I might add, of the death of civil rights leader and former Congressman John Lewis. You see, Lewis was one of the most vocal critics of President Trump during his first administration. The day is dubbed Good Trouble Lives On, and it's a national day of action to respond to the attacks on our civil and human rights by the Trump administration. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Justin Quazza. He's the Democracy Program Director with the League of Conversation Voters, and kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Justin, truly appreciate you coming on the show, sir, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
All right, so let's jump right into this. It's hard to believe, first and foremost, it's been, count 'em, 5 years since we lost Congressman John Lewis. One of the things that I know that he always stood for was, well, what's fair. However, in his case, he wanted to make sure that you went about that in a peaceful nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's exactly why we call it Good Trouble. The Good Trouble Lives On. So Good Trouble, you know, we talk about is the act of coming together and to take a peaceful and nonviolent action to challenge injustice and create meaningful change. And that's honestly what John Lewis lived for his whole life, whether it was from his freedom riders, whether it's with his work that he did in Congress. Everything he did was making sure in order to speak up for those who couldn't be spoken up for, to act up, act out, and always do what was right.
Justin, I need to correct myself. I made mention of your title earlier. You are yet again the Democracy Program Director with the League of Conservation Voters. Let's make sure we get it right. In this case, we know that you all are demanding a number of things, one of which happens to be the Trump administration's extreme crackdown on civil rights. Do tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we know is that, you know, this administration is really cracking down on the ability for, number one, people to vote. So I think we've seen through January 6th and a lot of other ways that the Trump administration has made sure to limit the voice that people have in our democracy, both in the voting booths as well as just general free speech. So we see protests happening across the country. We see the retaliations of that happening. In addition, we know that it's very much targeted towards Black and brown communities, immigrant communities, trans communities, and others who are really affected by these equal policies. So ultimately, what we want to do, once again, is use our voice, use our actions in order to speak up for these communities, have them come out in over 1,500 events across the country in order to make sure that the Trump administration knows we won't be silent, we will still act up, we will still cause good trouble, and speak up for those most affected.
Justin, you all plan to conduct a press conference later this afternoon. I'm curious, what exactly are you hoping to get across?
Well, I think one of the things we're hoping to get across is saying that this isn't just one single issue. So yes, this is about democracy, but people from across the spectrum are participating. As you already mentioned, I'm part of League of Conservation Voters. We're traditionally an environmental organization, but we also believe that we need to have a strong democracy in order to save our environment. And what you'll see is people from across the spectrum, whether it is reproductive rights, whether it is immigration, whether it's from labor, all coming together to say that it is incredibly important that we protect our civil rights, that we protect our voting rights, and continue with John Lewis's legacy of good trouble.
One of the things we saw earlier today is another win for President Trump, this time in the realm of the Department of Education, if you will, knowing that he can now slash jobs. Speaking of slashing, we know that's been the case with regard to Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security. Anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, ultimately, I think one of the things that we're trying to say is that, the Trump administration doesn't have the best policies for the general public and for the people. We know that ultimately he's doing all this in order to put more money in the pockets of his friends and himself. And so ultimately what we want to do is come out and say that the people are more important than anything that the billionaires or Trump's wealthy friends want to do, and that we're not going to stand by quietly as he attempts to take our democracy in a place where we don't want it to go, and that doesn't live up to the promise that we know that America has. Ultimately, we're trying to do what John Lewis says in his final message to America and really redeem the soul of this nation.
I had the opportunity and the honor of meeting Congressman Lewis about 6 years ago, 1 year prior to his death. Truly an amazing man, and truly someone that we should continue to honor and recognize for making amazing strides throughout his life. Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. Justin Quazza. He is the Democracy Program Director with the League of Conservation Voters, and kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. You have a good one.
Guys, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Say something. Yeah, he goes, they were all out of focus. You don't have like one university. I was completely silent. But it was great. Honestly, that's the best. That's the best way. Yeah.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, study after study show the positive benefits for children who engage in volunteering. My next guest says getting kids involved in volunteering starts with the values we model at home. And one of the most powerful gifts we can give our children is a sense of empathy. Joining us is seasoned philanthropist and Building Bridges columnist. He's also the author of the new book, Do More Good, which features a foreword by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Please welcome Neil Gush. to the show. Neil, good to see you, sir, and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Guy. So good to be here, and good morning to you.
I want to make sure I pronounced your last name correctly. Is it Ghosh?
I will go with that. I think it's fine.
All right, in that case,
what about empathy?
high five going out to me. It is no secret that you believe that an old Chinese saying, and that saying is, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a lifetime, well, it's real simple. Help someone. Do tell.
Guy, thanks for inviting and thanks for able to discuss this so important topic. You know, what I will start before I even go to that old Chinese saying, which goes like this, that if you want to be happy for an hour, take a nap. If you want to be happy for a day, go fishing. If you want to be happy for a month, maybe win a lottery ticket. But if you want to be happy for a lifetime, give someone, do something good for other people. So that's the old Chinese saying, and there are enough studies from Harvard and many other universities actually talks about and prove that generosity fuels happiness, growth, and success. And even some study will show also longevity. So that's what I talk about. That's what I talk to adults and kids across the country.
And one of the ways you encourage folks to do just that, specifically parents, is read stories of service together. You know, when I saw that headline, I thought to myself, it's so true. It makes it tangible, if you will.
Right. I'll give you, what I do, because this is such an important topic, not just to me, what's happening in the country. I honestly believe, before even I talk about the specific question you asked, what specifically we can do, I will start with the good news, Guy, that because we don't get to hear a lot of good news these days. Indiana University did a study in 2011 that empathy was going down. And they found that particularly among college students, empathy took a nosedive, less than 40% what they found in early 70s. So there's a lot of headline that time, end of empathy. The same study in 2024 found that empathy is on the rise again, particularly among Gen Z population and among early millennials. Now, that gives me a lot of hope and encouragement, because I do believe that to reverse the trend of the division we are seeing and the lack of empathy we are seeing can be restored through purpose and civic engagement. Now, coming back to specifically what you asked, what I'm trying to do is build a framework, and I will explain because it's easy to remember, and I call it HEART, H-E-A-R-T. And the H stands for, Guy, heroes. Heroism starts small. I know I haven't watched the movie yet, but I know a lot of people are maybe watching the new Superman movie.
Sure.
And I know one of the things I talk to kids about, the hero is not about just cape, it's about kindness. So I think instilling that conversation with them at an early young age is very important. Number two, the E stands for empathy, begins at home. And we all know, Guy, that kids don't do what we say, but they do what we do, right? So I grew up at a home where we had lack of resources. There was no television, no gas stove, no car, but there was an abundance of empathy. I always joke as an adult, my mother was a 24-hour empathy machine churning out empathy, never really worried about the receiver, whether they're giving it back or not. And that impacted my mindset all my life. And I saw my father, who will invite kids who are addicted to drugs or alcohol in our family vacation, which I thought was so odd at a young age. But as I grew up, I realized he was trying to rehabilitate those kids. So again, E stands for empathy begins at home. And then I talk about the A, ask them to join. And what I mean by that, whether you're giving a small $5 check or you're sponsoring a child, get them involved. Because if they be a part of it, I think then actually they are begin to see themselves as the giving process. I think that's very important. And I actually met many donors in my early life. They will bring their children to the discussion when they're talking to me about their giving plan. So get them engaged at an early age. And the R of the heart stand for resilience through empathy. And what I mean by this, a lot of people sometimes will say empathy is soft. And I say, no, empathy is strategic. Empathy is strength. So I think if we can instill at a young age, the empathy is something strategic, something strength. I think that gives them something to stand on. And the last part of the heart is T, take a stand against hate, any shape or form. So kind of I use the metaphor of heart to talk about empathy and how to engage kids at a young age.
Gosh, excellent points yet again that we should all implement, not now, but right now. Folks that want to find out more information about you, sir, or get their hands on your amazing book, Do More Good, how would one go about to do so?
Oh, the easiest thing would be to do is go to my website, which is my name, neilgaush.org, or you can Google it, Neil Gaush, Do More Good, you will be able to find it. But I welcome comments and in this journey of empathy.
Very good. Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. Neil Gaush, kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
You
Thank
bet.
you so much, guys.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Scale up bio-industrial production, including for defense needs. So Biomade is a private-public partnership with nearly 300 members across 37 states. Its mission is to partner with industry to enable innovators to pilot new bio-industrial products and facilities across the country that are linked to regional supply chains and agricultural feedstocks and train the future workers in this industry. To be clear, we should be accelerating Biomade's efforts, not senselessly blocking them. Last year, the Chinese government invested over $4 billion in biomanufacturing. We must take action now. We must not cede to China, and we must win the biotech competition. And for that reason, I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to join me in strongly opposing this amendment. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from California is recognized.
How much time do I have remaining?
Gentleman has 30 seconds remaining.
I yield to the gentleman for a quick question. I'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Yes, I'm a little bit confused here. So I want to ask a question. If we're doing good faith advertising to the American people, because that's what our job is, tell me why we would actually say potential benefit of super brewed foods, sustainable postbiotic protein, and warfighter health. That's awfully not what you're talking about. And then we're talking about the sustainable low-cost oil process for heart-healthy DoD rations. And then the other side's moniker to go low carbon, getting rid of cattle. Now you wonder why the cattle industry has problems in understanding why you're doing this. So I accept what the gentleman said in regards to what Biomade is, but your truth in advertising fails dismally to the American public, because that's what it says here. I yield to the gentleman from
Very quickly, our interests are energetics that goes into explosion devices, which is primarily a big part of that is the Biomade industry.
Well, I'd love to see that all the money go to that aspect, but not to these substitutes for meat. Okay?
I'm not interested in the substitute for meat.
Yeah, I am interested in substitute because I don't think our warfighters should have to have that. And I would like people to make that distinction, even if it costs me the amendment. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California.
Yield back.
Gentleman yields. It is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Arizona. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. The chair understands that amendment number 110110 will not be offered. It is now in order to consider amendment number 111, printed in Part A of House Report 119-199. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 111, printed in Part A of House Report number 119-199, offered by Ms. Green of Georgia.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Green, and a member opposed will control 5 minutes each. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We support our great men and women in our military, and we want to fund them to have the best equipment, be afforded the best housing, the best pay, and to be treated the best among the world. But I have an amendment today that would strike $118 million of funding to overseas humanitarian disaster and civic aid programs of the Department of Defense. These accounts fund programs for humanitarian assistance in foreign countries, in other nations, for foreign peoples, humanitarian mine action programs, foreign disaster relief for foreign countries and foreign peoples that the American people are having to pay for. And I want to remind everyone, the American people are $37 trillion in debt because of this institution and the way Congress has spent their money. Think about our own national disasters and problems that we face here at home, the American taxpayer faces. Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, the Lahaina wildfires, the LA wildfires, the Texas flooding, where there are still over 100 missing people, the opioid epidemic, the fentanyl epidemic, and all over the country, people are suffering. The American people voted to put America first. And Mr. Speaker, the American people are still being put last. Right now, the average health insurance premium for a family has risen by 22% since 2018. Fentanyl still kills hundreds of people every single day in America. And more than 32,000 veterans, people who served in our military, were homeless in 2024. And there were 6,407 suicides among Americans in 2022. This is unacceptable. In our Department of Defense appropriations funding, we should be funding for our military and not paying for funding for humanitarian aid in crisis in foreign countries. America simply cannot afford it anymore. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. For what purposes the gentlelady from Minnesota seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this amendment.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
This program is designed to assure that our allies and partners of the U.S. are supported in times of trouble. This funding provides basic humanitarian aid and essential services to the populations in need. Let's talk about what it does for America's national security. This program is an important tool for our combatant commanders who use this to assist our allies, and it builds and cements our relationships. Let me just give you a few examples. When we help our allies improve their capacity to prepare and to respond for a crisis that will take place, when we help implement the humanitarian mine action program, this provides significant training, readiness, and enhanced benefits even to our United States military. It contributes to alleviating the worldwide problem of explosive remnants of war, which includes landmines, unexploded ordnance, and small arms munitions. The program allows our military to hone their critical wartime and military civilian skills, language, culture, and foreign international defense skills. And finally, through the Foreign Disaster Relief Program, a program executed by our combatant commanders, we provide a unique assistance during natural and man-made disasters when interagency support is requested. DoD's ability to respond rapidly with extensive manpower, transportation, communication capabilities is critically important in a time of crisis. When we assist in filling in these capability gaps with our partners, when we help contain the crisis and limit the threats to regional stability by providing relief aid within hours or with even days of a disaster. Each of these programs are vital to the success of our battalion commanders' relationships with their counterparts. Cutting these funds would lessen the ability of our armed forces to execute their missions. For these reasons, I oppose this amendment, and I ask my colleagues to do the same. But, Mr. Chair, I'd like to yield 30 seconds to the chairman of the committee, Mr. Calvert.
Thank the gentlelady. This amendment strikes all funding for overseas humanitarian disaster and civil aid account. The funding is used by DoD to assist during humanitarian disasters. The funding is also used when specialized DoD experience is needed, such as detection and clearance of landmines, unexploded explosive ordnance, and other explosive remnants of war, which even to this day we are cleaning up World War II remnants. The President Trump's budget request includes just over $100 million in funding for this account. I urge a no vote on this amendment and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman has no time to reserve. Yields back. The gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
I would reserve my time.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentlelady from Georgia is now recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the American people are $37 trillion in debt. The Department of Defense's mission statement is to deter war and ensure our nation's security. That is their mission, and that is exactly what their funding should be for. I'd like to ask, what foreign country showed up to help Americans in our need, in our time of distress, in our humanitarian crises? Which foreign country has come to clean up the hundreds of people that die every single day on the streets from fentanyl? Which foreign country showed up to defend our border as we were invaded by millions of people for the past 4 years? Which foreign country said, here, America, here's millions and billions of dollars to help you? I'm going to tell you, zero. Zero foreign countries showed up. And here we are again, while the American people are enslaved by $37 trillion in debt, a debt we can never climb out of, but yet a debt that continues to rise because here in Congress, we go by this belief that we have to fund every foreign country all around the world. And I say enough. And the American people say enough. Right now, Americans can't afford their rent. Young people cannot afford to buy a home. Ask any 20-year-old, 30-year-old, and ask them if they believe they will ever be a homeowner. And their answer overwhelmingly is no. Americans can't afford their bills. They can't afford car insurance, health insurance, homeowners insurance. And life does not look good in the future. But you want to know why? Inflation is high. Do you want to know why life continues to be unaffordable? Because Congress cannot rein in its America Last spending. It cannot stop, and it refuses to stop. It continues to say yes to the lobbyists for the military-industrial complex. It continues to say yes to every lobbyist that walks in this institution as congressmen and women take donations into their campaign accounts. Americans are the most generous in the world. Americans can donate through charities to foreign countries to help foreign issues and foreign people. But the American people should not be forced to write the check, and the Department of Defense should be able to focus on their mission to deter war and ensure our nation's security. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to support this amendment, and I yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would just like to point out again that when we do these projects together with our allied nations, it provides significant training, access, and readiness enhancement benefits to the United States military. Mr. Speaker, the question was asked on this House floor, who came to our aid? Who stood for the United States? I was here on September 11th, serving in Washington, D.C., my first term in Congress. NATO. The world came to our aid. The world came and helped us when we fought against the Taliban. And with that, Mr. Chair, I thank those nations for standing with us, and I look forward to working with them in the future in this type of partnership, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from California. My apologies, from the gentlewoman from Georgia. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for a recorded vote.
Gentlelady asks for a recorded vote. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Georgia will be postponed. It is now in order to consider amendment number 112, printed in Part A of House Report 119-199. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 112, printed in Part A of House Report number 119-199, offered by Ms. Green of Georgia.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Green, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the House considers funding $831 billion to the Department of Defense for the funding of our great men and women in our military to defend our nation and our nation's interest, it's important to talk about the foreign aid that we are funding to foreign countries. The American people are $37 trillion in debt. $37 trillion in debt. The debt keeps rising, and the interest on our debt is at $1 trillion now per year. $1 trillion. My amendment would strike $500 million of military assistance to Taiwan. This is an increase of $100 million from fiscal year 2025 and will be used to provide a wide variety of assistance, including planes, drones, missile defense, munitions, and more. Listen to this, as we're giving an extra $100 million, making it $500 million in this Department of Defense appropriations bill, the entire defense budget of Taiwan is less than $20 billion. Our defense budget is $831 billion. It wouldn't be so high if we weren't giving foreign aid. We've given Taiwan over $2 billion in funding and munitions over the past 2 years. We've already given them $2 billion, but now we're giving them another $500 billion. Increasing foreign aid to Taiwan will only increase their reliance on the United States. And the United States should be serving the American people and stop enslaving the American people in massive debt that drives the inflation that is causing Americans to suffer, that is causing Americans to not be able to afford everyday life. The United States is $37 trillion in debt, and we can't even hardly afford our own massive military budget, let alone funding the significant portions of other countries, of foreign countries, and foreign nations, and foreign people that do not pay taxes here in America. We have so many of our own domestic problems here at home and should not be funding foreign countries, foreign aids, and quite frankly, instigating World War III with China. Before we start worrying about Taiwan's borders or Ukraine's borders or any other country's borders, we should be focusing on the continued security of our own border and deporting the criminals and terrorists and millions of people that invaded our country and are somewhere within our country after they invaded our own borders. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. For what purposes, the gentleman from California seek recognition?
I rise in opposition to the gentlelady's amendment.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I greatly admire the gentlelady from Georgia's passion for ensuring support for our overseas allies, our wise use of taxpayers' dollars, but support for Taiwan must be part of that equation. Just yesterday, the Trump administration released a statement of administration policy for the defensive appropriation bill, very supportive of the bill we produced. One of the very few areas the administration expressed any slight disagreement with our bill was wanting more money for Taiwan. The administration has proposed including $1 billion, while this bill provides $500 million. Now, had OMB delivered budget materials to us in time for consideration, we would have certainly taken a look at providing what they requested, but that wasn't the case. Supporting Taiwan in the face of unrelenting Chinese aggression is absolutely in the vital interests of the United States. I want to point out that Taiwan makes 90% of the world's chips and close to 100% of the highly needed chips for artificial intelligence and high technical devices. The funding will go a long way to make sure that Taiwan has the resources necessary to help prevent a Chinese invasion. That's the position of the Trump administration, and that's the position of this bill. With that, I urge a no vote on the amendment and reserve the balance of my time. And I yield 2 minutes to the ranking member, the gentlelady from Minnesota.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I am very, very proud of my vote to vote against the President's big tax package, which added $3.4 trillion debt to our national debt over the next 10 years. But right now I'm rising in opposition to this amendment. America's strength around the world does not only stem from our military power, but our network of alliances in Europe and the Pacific that allow us to project power. Our allies support us and we support them. That means when our allies are threatened, the United States needs to be with them. That's exactly what we're doing in Ukraine, helping a sovereign nation defend itself against, defend its democracy from Russian aggression. A similar situation could easily occur in the Pacific, where Taiwan is threatened by the People's Republic of China. China has a recent history of seizing territory. Look at the invasion of Tibet in the 1950s. They've suppressed democracy in Hong Kong. And when the Chinese president speaks of reunification of Taiwan, we should believe that he will attempt it. We cannot allow that to happen. China may not stop with Taiwan. If Taiwan falls, other Pacific island nations like the Philippines would be threatened. And America is not alone in these concerns. Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand are deeply concerned about the future of Taiwan's democracy. And that's why they're working with us to deter China and to prevent an invasion of Taiwan from happening. The $500 million in this bill will assist Taiwan in preparing their military, increasing their readiness and their deterrence capabilities. So I support the inclusion of the funds in this bill, and I strongly oppose this amendment. I ask my colleagues to do the same, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. The gentlewoman from Georgia is recognized.
As far as news go, that's pretty solid.
Very weird. I'm saying I should like shit together. Yeah. They're gonna be looking at it. Still actually like it's good time. Like he came to Martinsburg with that once.
Vote. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Georgia will be postponed. Keep that one. It is now in order to consider amendment number 113, printed in Part A of House Report 119-199. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 113, printed in Part A of House Report number 119-199, offered by Ms. Green of Georgia.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Green, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, as we're debating today the $831 billion defense appropriation bill, It's important to talk about the foreign aid that is in this bill and why it must be stopped. The American people are $37 trillion in debt, and this institution is to blame for it. You see, it's Congress and the men and women that serve in Congress that can never say no to every single lobbyist and every single foreign country that walks in their office. My amendment would strike the funding for HIV prevention education activities in foreign countries. This bill provides at least $15 million for HIV prevention educational activities undertaken in connection with the United States military training, exercises, and humanitarian assistance activities conducted primarily in African nations. My amendment would strike this provision to ensure that taxpayer dollars are not being wasted teaching African soldiers about how to have safe sex. I mean, this is an issue that should be resolved by now. The U.S. already spends a massive amount of money on HIV/AIDS, primarily through PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. To date, U.S. funding for PEPFAR has totaled over $120 billion. That's $120 billion that the American people do not have, that never helped them solve any of their problems. This has grown from $1.9 billion in fiscal year 2004 to $6.5 billion in
Hey guys, you're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone, wrapping up with regard to lawmakers on the House floor speaking on all things surrounding the defense spending budget. We're going to take you now to the White House, where any minute now we are expecting White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to make her way to that podium to discuss a number of things. Obviously, top of mind happens to be the Israeli attack on Syria. President Trump not happy with regard to that position, the position of the Israelis doing just that. Also top of mind, and well, probably which will be discussed, is Jeffrey Epstein. The files yet to be released to the public. A number of folks now crying foul. The president actually facing opposition within his own party to do just that. And then earlier today, we got word that, well, the Trump administration may very well reopen Alcatraz. Let's take a listen in. Here's Caroline Leavitt.
I apologize for our tardiness. I was with the president. Let me begin with a few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will travel to Scotland, where he will visit both Turnberry and Aberdeen from July 25th to July 29th. During the visit, President Trump will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September 19th later this fall. This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion since President Trump entered office, helping to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade. We are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance. This legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers. There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day, and on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the Southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country. ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina. ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas. The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, one second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California, is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, two media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Levitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it to make crypto payments easier and more efficient for those who seek to use crypto as simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign, and while it's not in this specific piece of legislation, he did sign a January executive order banning a central bank digital currency. The administration supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions. And they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from this story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did he fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump. John, go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works, first of all? What happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing, and he wants to save lives. Reagan, go ahead.
Yet again, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressing the White House press pool. You can continue to watch and follow this press conference by logging on to our Fox 5 YouTube page and watching it there as well. On behalf of my producer, Emmy, I'm Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. Real quick tomorrow, I want to make mention we are going to get you set for, yes, it's hard to believe we're talking football. commanders. Training camp officially gets underway this upcoming weekend, and we'll get you a preview with regard to what you can expect. We do it each and every day, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and we'll do it all over again. In this case, Friday. We'll see you back here on the Live Zone. The Take coming up next, right here on Fox 5.